I'm Ernestine Nettles, the president of the League of Women Voters, Oakland, reminding you democracy is not a spectator sport. We all must do our part. Vote, encourage everyone around us to vote. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, Oakland, I welcome you to our 2025 Voter Education and Candidate Forum. We are a 100% volunteer organization, a nonpartisan organization dedicated to fostering civic engagement. We are honored to provide the platform here for candidates and community members to discuss the issues that matter most. At the League of Women Voters, we believe democracy thrives when voters access fair, open, and respectful dialogue. Our goal today is to create a space where each candidate can share their vision and you, the voters, can gain insight needed to make an informed decision. We appreciate the candidates taking time to be here and their commitment to public safety and public service. We also thank the audience for your engagement in this democratic process. Let's ensure that today's discussion remains respectful, constructive, and focused on issues. Please hold your comments and applause until the end of the forum. We are all here because we love Oakland, and welcome to this forum, and let's have an informative good time. Thank you.
So again, welcome and thank you for joining us today for this forum for the candidates for Oakland Mayor. My name is Dr. Tracy Edwards Moore. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters in Oakland and also a member of the 100 Black Women.
And I'm Helen Hutchison, also a volunteer and member of the League of Women Voters of Oakland. We're pleased to have as partners today Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Alpha Nu Omega Chapter, American Association of University Women, Oakland Piedmont Branch, Centers for Elders Independence, Centro Legal de la Raza, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Oakland Chinatown Coalition, the Oakland Chinatown Improvement Council, Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce, Piedmont Pines Neighborhood Association, SPUR, and we have two media partners, both KTOP and KALW.
The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League participates in issue advocacy and voter education. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues or ballot measures. This forum is presented by the education arm of the League, which does not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties, nor take positions on issues or ballot measures.
Before we introduce the candidates, we have a few logistical items to review. The candidates and our community partners have all agreed to participate under the guidelines set for this forum. The candidate forums are being televised by KTOP, Oakland's cable access station, and live streamed on the city's website, oaklandca.gov/Oakland meeting. The forums are being recorded and can be viewed later on the League of Women Voters of Oakland's website or YouTube channel. The recording of this event is owned by the League of Women Voters of Oakland. Filming or recording these sessions by anyone other than KTOP is not permitted.
All right, so there are 9 candidates running for mayor. They are Suze Robinson, Barbara Lee, Miss Christina Grappo, Mindy Ruth Peshinuk, Lauren Manuel Taylor, Elizabeth Swaney, Rena Janine Webb, Peter Liu, Eric Simpson, and my apologies, candidates, if I messed up any of your names.
So the process for this forum, the speaking order of the candidates has been randomly assigned. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds, to respond to each question. The first question will be addressed to all the candidates, and after that, each question will be addressed to groups of 3 candidates. There are no separate rebuttals, but candidates may choose to use some or all of their 1.5 minutes to rebut a response given by another candidate or to address a topic from a previous question. Following all the questions, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. I ask the candidates to keep their eyes on the timekeepers because they'll signal with different colored signs that have 30 seconds remaining and stop. As moderators, we may verbally give these prompts as well. Some questions for this forum have been prepared in advance, both by the League of Women Voters and our partners.
All right. So we'll also take live questions from the audience with us. If you'd like to ask a question, you can raise your hand, and one of our volunteers will give you an index card to write the question on. Please keep your questions succinct and directed to all the candidates, not individual candidates. We will try and include as many of your questions as time allows. And before we begin with the candidates, in order to be heard, you will need to turn your mic on by pushing the on button in front of you and speaking directly into your microphone. When you are done speaking, please be sure to return your mic to the off position. And finally, one request of everyone here today, candidates and the audience. Please be polite, use civil language, and show respect for others. We are all here because we care deeply about Oakland. We may disagree about how to address issues, but we can be respectful and have civil discussions.
And one final reminder to please hold your applause and reactions until the very end. So now it's time to start the candidates to answer questions. Our first question goes to all the candidates, and we're going to start with Suze Robinson. Oakland has a projected $280 million deficit in the next several years. Shortly after the election, whoever is elected mayor must present a budget plan for the 2025-27 fiscal season that addresses the deficit. What can you realistically do in the short term to begin to reclaim fiscal health for the city? Ms. Robinson.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, when the mayor takes over, the budget's going to be gone. It's gone May 1st. So this election ends April 15th. So you have to understand it takes a while to count the ballots. So I don't expect to have much of a say in the budget once it goes to council. The main thing is we have a revenue problem in the city, and we have no business plan. Our business plan expired 5 years ago. We have a city that seems to just wait around for San Francisco to recover, so we can keep on doing whatever San Francisco does. So we need a mayor of this city that's going to separate us from San Francisco and stop doing whatever they do. They have all the same problems we do because we just follow everything they do. And we got to go after the revenue side. We have a major commercial real estate collapse. All the cities are experiencing this. So the problem is often our solution, and these empty buildings can be our solution by, number one, office conversion projects. We have opportunities for a tax increment finance district with some of these empty buildings. Other cities are talking about that. But I believe in building a new Oakland and going out and doing business development and getting companies to invest in our future, our vision, what we're going to become. And that's a clean, green, new economy city. So I'm talking about the mayor's office owning business development and going out there and getting our revenue up with a business plan where we can compete with other cities, because they're stealing our businesses right now. They're literally stealing our businesses while we sit around here and do nothing. And believe me, I've been at the intersection. Stop.
Thanks. Ms. Lee?
Thank you very much. First, we're in crisis. Our budget is in crisis. But also, this didn't just happen. There are structural imbalances that we need to address. I actually, and as an example, brought in millions of dollars for COVID relief. The budget has been based on an ongoing COVID relief budget, and that just should not have happened. As mayor, I will ask for an internal assessment, a forensic audit, to determine waste, fraud, abuse, and where efficiencies with departments can be made. We need to help reset and reorganize the city to stabilize and improve Oakland's fiscal solvency. Secondly, we must increase revenue, and I support the current sales tax ballot initiative that's raising the sales tax from 10.25 to 10.75, which of course brings in additional revenue, puts us on par with other cities. Next, I think we must look at millions of dollars in revenue that Oakland deserves. We deserve our fair share, and we have to make sure that the revenue coming in through our tax dollars are distributed fairly, and Oakland should be at the table for Measure W, for example, for housing tax revenues, Measure C for child care, and we have to collect additional fines, tickets, permitting fees, vacant store collections. Millions have not been collected, and so we need a balanced approach to our budget, and we need to live within our means.
Thank you. Ms. Grappo?
Yes, I believe that Measure A will be up to us as a city to pass. It's important that we pass Measure A in order to go with a long-term solution for the budget deficit to cease. This would mean about 10 years with Measure A in store. If, however, Measure A doesn't pass, we must consider other solutions such as grant writing and being on board with what we have rights to with our California budget. We have a means to also cut slimly or marginally from every division according to our budget. That means 1% off each 1% off of each type of topic in our budget would also free up a lot of money, and we'd have we'd have the deficit in store we'd finish it off quickly, even within 2 years during our short-term mayorship.
Thank you. Ms. Petchenuk?
Hi. First of all, I think it's important that we develop Oakland again. It was once a major, great industrial city, and you can't have a great city without industry and manufacturing and supporting your small businesses. So as I would bring in the DOGE to clean out the budget and the finances of the city, which I believe a lot of money to the NGOs, to the nonprofits, are wasteful, and we don't need them. We need to actually rebuild the city, and I do not support Measure A. I don't think Oakland needs another tax. The people of the city have been taxed too much. What we need is to get the industry, the manufacturing, as I said, back in order and allow the city to actually become productive again. So from that standpoint, I think these are the kind of first measures you have to take, because the city, once, we know anybody living in Oakland having drugs, and this is the other thing I would do, I would move against the drugs, against fentanyl, against the drug cartels. And because you cannot have a productive city if you have your population on drugs. So that's why I would rebuild it in that kind of fashion. And that takes to heart the entire population of the city, which is really important. And we have a time now to do that. But just simply piling more on will only make it worse, and it'll increase all the problems. So I encourage everyone to really think from that standpoint. We have to think in a revolutionary way to rebuild Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Yes. Yes, as a former management consultant, entrepreneur, I have guided large organizations in solving their financial crises in terms of income and expenses. We have been spending more money than we bring in. That has to stop. We have to make the hard and necessary choices, bring all stakeholders to the table so we can reduce our costs in the near term and also increase our revenues. Yes, we must be laser focused on growing revenue, not just going out to federal, state, other partners and asking them for money to help sustain us. We also have to grow on our own, build into our business community, economic development, stimulating the economy. We also have to look at how we increase operational efficiency in our city, how we look at our overtime, shift that towards full-time employees that are going to be more effective. We also have to look at how we are paying significant amounts of money, more than $130 million in interest payments for debt obligations. We have to restructure, refinance our debt, reduce the interest payments, free up millions of dollars. Also, aggressively pursuing external funding is great. In addition, we have to look at bringing the vendors, suppliers, others to the table, reducing the amount of contract spend that we have as well. Thank you.
Ms. Sweeney?
Oakland doesn't have a budget problem as much as an imagination problem. We're stuck in the same cycle of short-term fixes, so we need to do something to change that. We need to prioritize auditing the city budget. We also need to focus on revenue-generating projects that benefit all Oaklanders and not just developers or huge businesses. At the same time, we need to focus on public-private partnerships that benefit all Oaklanders and maybe have some carefully selected companies that can sponsor us. We also need to consider community budgeting within our budget process, because the people that pay taxes in Oakland should have a say on how the budget is spent.
Thank you. Ms. Webb?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us today. I am the newly appointed by our interim mayor to our Budget Advisory Commission, so I have actually already been working on looking at our budget. We are not in a crisis by not even a little bit. We have about $1.6 billion of federal money, $600 million coming in from our housing, $332 million coming in from our port. We have Measure AA dollars, which is about $30 million. We have Measure L and Measure LL, Measure U is for our libraries. We have Measure W, which will bring about $128 million. Please, please say no on any more taxes. We are definitely the most taxed city in our Bay Area. I'm probably for sure in California, and definitely the top 10 in the United States. We cannot afford it. We just have to be smarter with our money that's coming in. As far as generating revenue, an instant way to increase revenue is using what we already have, the Port of Oakland. San Francisco is utilizing their port by bringing in tourism, using Princess Cruise Line. That brings in automatic tourism, that brings in automatic restaurant visitors, that brings in people that need stuff at the stores. That's traffic here in our community. And so there's ways that we could utilize our port for maritime, for the Department of Defense.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
I will sell concealed carry permits for $200 each, and we have 40 million residents in California. And so there's 7 million people just in the metropolitan area. So if we sell 1 million concealable carry permits to these people, we would have $200 million. And also, I will be teaching people how to be millionaire in 2 years and a billionaire in 10. We'll have massive seminars, and I'll charge people $200 each, in which they come to learn how I get rich and how they would be rich too. Thank you.
Mr. Simpson?
The social crisis the workers face in Oakland, the deep degradation of living conditions, the challenges we face to earn enough money to live and support a place to live and raise our families is not caused by the city budget. The painful conditions we face are caused by the world. And to understand the Oakland social crisis facing workers in Oakland, we have to understand the world and the overwhelming convulsions of the capitalist crisis that face us worldwide. The wars that are going on now, to understand Oakland, let's look at Ukraine. Let's look at Israel, the wars that are happening, the economic crisis that's driving towards more war. And we have to look at the world in that context. The working people are the only class in society that have no interest in war and exploitation. Let's make a break with the billionaires and put the working class first. Stop putting the bondholders first. We need to take power in the United States and form a workers' government.
Thank you. Our next question is going to start with Barbara Lee, then Ms. Grappo, and then Mindy Pershenik. So our next question. The deficit Oakland faces is largely in the general purpose fund, which is in the main source of revenue for police and fire services. How will you as mayor maintain or enhance public safety services in Oakland while also addressing the deficit? And we're going to start with Barbara Lee.
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, that means we have about 30% for everything else. So a couple of things I would do as mayor. First of all, the voters passed Measure NN in November, which set forth a comprehensive public safety plan, which requires, of course, 700 police officers. It also requires crime prevention efforts through ceasefire. We need to focus on crime prevention also so that we can free up police officers to do policing. Also, I do know we need to get to probably about 850 officers, which of course is long term. But in the meantime, it's important to make sure that the police officers are freed up through the use possibly of technology so that they can get in the streets and patrol and conduct policing, which is what they were hired to do. Also, we have to make sure that the federal monitor, we need the federal monitor and this federal oversight, which Oakland has been under for 20 years, dealt with. We have not met the accountability conditions and need to do that. Millions are being spent on the negotiated settlement agreement. And so we need to look at police overtime, and then we need to look at the overtime of the overtime and make sure that the overtime is transparent, that the police department is accountable for those resources, given that they are 70% of the general fund budget, the general fund, and we need to make sure that we execute on Measure NN.
Thank you.
Yes, we must protect our public services, our Oakland Police Department, in addition to our Oakland Fire Department, the OPD, the OFD. This is important because we need, in addition to programs like Neighborhood Watch, we need Business Watch. Business Watch can help our businesses grow and flourish within the economy to support a stronger economy when we're looking at paying taxes for, the better of our budget and for the better of our economical plan for the city. The Oakland Fire Department, we can't risk taking lives from people that have burned churches and other buildings. It's an atrocity. We need to have as much help in our fire department as possible. And our Oakland Police Department, we should have a July police academy to make sure that we can protect our current police officers from overtime and not being paid overtime pay according to law. Thank you.
Thank you. Mindy Pershenik.
Well, the first thing you have to do is to actually get rid of the city ordinances that are stopping our police from actually doing their jobs. Most people don't realize that the ordinances that are now in the city of Oakland are prohibited. And so if you're going to, and we do need to increase the number of police, But to do that, you've got to address two things. One is the city ordinances, and as mayor, that is something that is the first thing I'm going to tackle. And I've been in lots of discussions with people in the profession that actually know what has to be changed. Secondly, you have to get rid of the Federal Oversight Commission. This is costing millions and millions of dollars, and it's actually hindering our police from doing what they have to do. And thirdly, what we need to make sure is we reopen the police academies. You don't run a city budget and say, sorry, we got to cut the budget on the police. Cut the budget on programs like Macro, which does not help the police in their policing. And so if we would actually do these kinds of steps, then we'd free up our officers, and we'd actually not have so much overtime, because when you don't have enough police, they're having to work mandatory overtime right now. So those are some of the steps that have to be taken. There's a lot more that could be said, but I think those are some of the priorities. And you put the Oakland population first, not the speculators and not the bankers.
Thank you. Our next question is going to go to Mr. Taylor, Ms. Sweeney, and Ms. Webb. So describe your leadership style and explain how it will improve the city government functions and how it could help build trust by making government more responsive and accessible.
Thank you. My leadership style, as a former management consultant, I have honed my leadership style in terms of inclusive, facilitative leadership. And that's critical for our city to actually include the stakeholders in the decisions that we're making, those who feel the impact of our decisions into the decision-making process. It is something that I lean on, is making sure that all stakeholders are brought to the table. We're bringing people from across the political spectrum in order to help move us forward on our most intransigent challenges. Examples, like when I stood firm against defunding the police because I knew that taking $50 million away from law enforcement would put Oaklanders in danger, I also doubled down on the commitment to reimagining public safety, what it could and should mean. That meant bringing more than 140 Oaklanders together on a regular basis to wrestle with the tough challenges, develop real solutions that we began to implement back then. That's just one example of many of bringing people together, including them in the process, guiding folks through that, and then making sure we have tangible results at the end of the day.
Thank you. Ms. Sweeney.
My leadership style is visionary, people-centered, and uniting. I'm not affiliated with any party, and one reason I have done that is because I want to reach people across different parties and unite people. I also feel like I push the bounds of leadership. When I was a student at Cal Berkeley, where I received my undergrad degree, I was the only woman on the Cal men's rowing team, which then won the Pac-10 championship. So as a coxswain, I steered the boat, motivated the rowers, and directed practices. So I have experience with, in my early years, of making sure 8 oars went into the water at the same time at the Oakland estuary, uniting people, making sure kind of they push through the end goal, and all 9 of us were just united towards a current vision. That was a very difficult team to be on, just because there was a lot of expectations on that team, but I was able to carry that experience later on to have other leadership roles. I was a track and field coach at Harvard University when I was a grad student there. I also I'm a stand-up comedian and a producer, so I unite a lot of different stand-up comedians and help people have a good time, audience members. So I have a lot of unique leadership experiences, and I believe that background is really kind of different than maybe the current political scene, and I feel like that's a refreshing voice in politics.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Webb.
My leadership skills and the example of myself as a leader has already been shown and proven to the city when I put my life on the line to stand up against the corruption that has been plaguing our city. That's the kind of leader I am. Second of all, I would encourage you all to join me next Monday on March 24th at our state capitol. For the last 4 years, I've led our California state legislative team with our Moms Demand Action. We go and have lawmaker meetings with our senators, our assembly members, and our Attorney General's office. We are responsible for about 10 to 20 million of dollars that has come directly to Oakland via CalVIP. So that's money that pays for ceasefire. That's money that is paid for our violence prevention. That's money that supports Youth Alive, Oakland Rising. What's another one? But yeah, that's work that I am doing right now. Please, if you are available next Monday, join me at the Capitol. And lastly, I'm a historian. These earrings that I have on right now, they say, "We the people." I went to the Library of Congress recently. I went to the Archive Museum. And there was a story that struck out to me most. The first woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, her name was Jane Addams. She took a crime-ridden, trash-plagued city and turned it around within a year with just community.
Thank you. Our next question is going to go to Peter Liu, Eric Simpson, and Suze Robinson. And the question is, what sort of relationship with the police commission do you anticipate? There's been talk of increasing police. How would you ensure that the police act not only within the Constitution, but also eliminate federal oversight? And we're starting with Peter Liu.
The commission is kind of hectic. What I would like to do is see the police force allocate much of their activities to militias, all right? We're going to have neighborhood militias in which each police officer would organize 7 to 25 volunteers, and these are constitutional militias, and they'll be armed. I'll be training them how to do terrorist defense tactics because I'm a combat veteran. And once we have that neighborhood watch, then we're going to install security cameras on the intersections. So whenever things happen, it'll be on real time on internet feed, so people could look out for their neighborhood without going out. This would ignore the commission, which doesn't do much, and hopefully they would set policies that allow police to be more active. But instead of police, I think the U.S. militias would take a more bold stance on fighting crime. And also, if there's evacuations that's going to happen, if there's a wildfire on the hills, then we just call up the militias, activate them, and they'll be able to evacuate the people from the hills. Right now, the 911 system doesn't even work, so regardless what the commission do, it's a failure right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Simpson.
The same dog-eat-dog values that permeate capitalist society also permeate the police department. And we see that in the contempt that's shown not only in the violence that's directed against working people and the contempt that's shown for working people by the police often, but also in their contempt in not responding to calls for help when working people need assistance from law and order. I'm for the rule of law, and I'm not for defunding the police. But working people have organized and set a limit to police brutality over the course of many decades, which I have been a part of and my party has been a part of organizing, to limit the power of police and to hold the police to a standard of conduct that's worthy of and considerate of the working class. As long as the rich people run Oakland and the city and the state and the country, the police will serve their interests. And until working people organize a new government, the police will always serve the interests of the rich.
Thank you. And Suze Robinson.
I'm in favor of getting politics out of our public safety. I think we have a problem with the police commission. There's been a lot of drama with the commission last year. It doesn't seem to matter, if we get new commissioners in. So, the current commission has been accused of catering to special interests. And, so I'm in favor of reevaluating the appointment process. When our public safety has been politicized to the extent that it has in Oakland, I don't think it's a good idea to have politicians appointing members of the commission because it quickly becomes politicized. So I think we need to reevaluate the criteria and the appointment process for the commission. And finally, look, we need good oversight in this city. So we have issues with 7 layers of bureaucracy overseeing our department. We have major cultural issues inside of our police department. And we all have to be asking the question, why is our public safety collapsed in this city? Before the pandemic, we didn't have enough police officers, and people were calling us up on the phone to ask us how we were doing it. So we have to look at what's changed. We have a cultural collapse inside the department from mass firings of senior officers. We've got the politicization of our public safety based on policing crisis, a nationwide policing crisis. So we need to move politics out of the way and have healthy public safety in Oakland. And we need to have a mayor committed to do that, not to make political choices because people's lives are at risk in this city.
Thank you. So now, next question. Okay, the next question is going to go to Ms. Grappo, Ms. Pechenuk, and Mr. Taylor. What is your vision for Oakland's growth and development? What action steps can you take in the first year to make that vision a reality? And then to make it more complicated, what specific types of industries do you think that realistically can be attracted to come to Oakland? So starting with Ms. Grappo.
Oakland needs more Oakland economic development. This means that we need to have grants and loans available for Oaklanders to open up strategic businesses that will help give employees as well as business owners more leeway to grow the economy by actually purchasing things. We need to have a work ethic. We need to instill in our young people, for example, high schoolers and newly graduates from high school, having economic programs developed for them so that they can have internships and have a resume basis to keep going to school, keep earning and continue along with better economic role models. Businesses are what we need. I've been part of family business in Oakland since I was a teenager. I know that it takes coordination. It takes paying your taxes. It takes paying for gasoline. But hopefully it's more like electric cars. Thank you.
Ms. Pechenuk.
Well, my vision for Oakland is I can see with lowering tax incentives and working with President Trump and helping with the actual industries, like look next door to Alameda. Alameda has just brought in a fusion-related company. I think we need to do that in Oakland. Why not? Let's transform East Oakland. It doesn't have to be a drug haven. And part of the vision has to be to get rid of the drugs. And I want to say something on this for a minute because I want to take the time to address it. We have a serious drug problem in Oakland, fentanyl and other drugs. And we need to do something that I think San Francisco has done. It's called a program which is DMAC, where the sheriffs, the police work with the federal government. And just so people know, right here in Oakland, DMAC just did an arrest of 3 people who were actually working with the Sinaloa cartel and running the drugs from Oakland into San Francisco. Now, we have to address that as part of the vision. It's not separate from bringing in maybe natural gas companies, Why not bring in new fusion and related companies here? Why not open 3D manufacturing? There's all kinds of industries you can bring in, but you need an overall plan how to do it. And as mayor, that is one of my primary considerations, because if you look at a place like East Oakland, imagine it looking like a beautiful area of Oakland again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Yes. Under my leadership, Oakland will be open for business. We will create opportunities for growth to expand the pie so that we all benefit and we can deliver on our values and not have it shrink while we fight over crumbs. To increase businesses, we have to understand why businesses are failing, struggling, or leaving our city. Number one is the bureaucracy that we have in City Hall. I will ensure that we establish concierge service for our small businesses so that they can have support navigating City Hall, getting through the bureaucracy that has often caused many to fail and stumble. Costs are another reason. We have to help them reduce their costs. I am proposing that for small businesses earning less than $1.5 million a year, that we eliminate the business license tax. Also, that we establish a shot clock for our planning and building department so that we are moving forward effectively and efficiently, and we're not the bottleneck for these businesses when they're trying to get permits, fees, licenses to get started and to get moving. We have to also focus on helping them increase revenues. Part of that is activating our commercial corridors, bringing more people to our city, increasing our public relations and media relations for the city so that we don't have folks scared to come downtown. Yes, we have to address public safety as a baseline, but we can do so much more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be for Elizabeth Swaney, Raina Webb, and Peter Liu. And that question is, what could be learned from the audit reports that have been completed, and how would you act on those findings? And we're starting with Elizabeth Swaney.
So I would focus on continuing to do audits and then even more transparency in the city. I feel like there's been a lot of money spent on public safety, which is definitely needed in Oakland, but a city of, I think 70% in Oakland, a city of comparable size, Sacramento, has about 40% spent on public safety. So we need to figure out how we get that in control, like the money spent on public safety. A big reason for that could be just overtime, but overtime is definitely needed in a city like ours as well. So we definitely need to study more of the budget and learn more about where we're spending a lot on infrastructure and public safety, and see where we're making unnecessary spending as well. So we definitely need to just have more clear communications, especially with the departments where a lot of the money is being sent, and look into cities of comparable sizes of Oakland and see and compare where we can make changes and learn from the great cities around us. Oakland is an amazing city, and we just need still more work. We're halfway there. We did an audit. We're not done yet, but that's just one step of 50 more steps we need to make in terms of making sure our audit and budget is even more transparent for the future.
Thank you. Raina Webb.
And it's Rania.
Rania.
I like to tell people, think of your knee. It helps you remember.
And my knee hurts, so that's...
Get some balming fluid. I would say I've been really impressed with our city auditor, Michael Houston, and his office. The reports that have been coming out, the whistleblower reports that have been igniting and initiating these audits. One example is the $1.6 million that they recently released the report that was spent in overpayment of overtime in our Department of Public Works, and I believe it was our Department of Transportation. If those monies were utilized for services, perhaps our streets would be cleaner right now. We have two cities right up the road from us. Fremont, for the 6th year in a row, has been ranked the happiest city in the United States. Number 2 is San Jose. Oakland deserves that. We are just as beautiful, just as strong, actually more powerful, more access. Our port can bring in way more revenue than they ever can generate. We just have to be responsible with our resources. We have to be responsible with the taxes that we have already layered on top of layered. Our citizens, they deserve to have their streets clean. They deserve to have investments in our schools. That's what we voted for these monies for. As long as we keep mismanaging these dollars, we're going to keep living in a third world Oakland.
Thank you. And Peter Liu.
I would focus more on spending for entertainment. And I would put giant water slides at the lake, turn it into a water park with the bounce houses, grills. Now, if we have those activities for the people, they would have less time doing crime. And if we teach people how to be rich with the legal way, they certainly won't have to deprive the life and property of others. So if I were mayor, I would allocate, I would even eliminate funding for homeless programs because those doesn't even work. And we would take those money and instead every sizable park in Oakland be turned into a unique theme park. Like for Diamond Park, for example, we could turn it into a concert venue. You know, so local artists, bands, they could just play at the local park, and whoever goes there could just donate to the bands if they love their music. I mean, it's a great way. This would generate a lot of jobs for Oakland as we bring in tourists from all over the Bay Area to visit our parks, and we could turn every sizable parks into unique themed park attractions, and that would give the city a lot of revenue too. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question is going to start with Mr. Simpson and then go to Ms. Robinson and Ms. Lee. I'm going to change the subject a bit here. Urban policies supporting the arts can make arts a driver of economic development. A recent Spur study gave the example of Cleveland, which has developed a robust arts funding infrastructure that includes a $12 million annual fund generated from a cigarette tax. Denver uses a 1-cent sales tax to generate $80 million annually for arts funding and a bond measure to revitalize the downtown corridors. Oakland recently eliminated the majority of arts funding as part of its cost cutting. So the question is, what reliable public revenue sources and what public-private partnerships or other strategies can you propose to support and revitalize the art scene in Oakland? Mr. Simpson.
I actually joined the socialist movement, the Socialist Workers' Party, as a youth when I was a student in an art school. So I have a little bit of...
So you need to choose the next question.
I'm a lifelong artist as well as a militant in the ranks of the Socialist Workers' Party. So I have a little bit of skin in that game, actually. I think Cuba sets a fantastic example of how it's not about, in our society, everything is about money. If you're a successful artist, you make millions of dollars. It's all about sales and commodities. But in Cuba, they set a different example. With no money, a tiny island, subject to all kind of restrictions imposed by the United States, they have a thriving art environment, beautiful music, and everybody's involved. I think that's an example of a working class approach to art. It has nothing to do with expenditures. It has everything to do with mobilizing the self-worth and human solidarity of the working class. And in that respect, as in many others, Cuba sets a good example.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson?
You know, You know, the way Oakland does a lot of things is just by scattering money everywhere and not really having a good plan about it. And what I see is tremendous opportunity for us to have a revenue plus plan in arts and culture. So, you know, as mayor of the city, I think we have an opportunity to create a business and tourism initiative. And again, this is about separating Oakland from San Francisco and turning this city into a world-class destination. We've allowed a lot of our historic districts to become run down. We haven't given the attention that some of our monuments deserve. And some of our districts are very marketable here in terms of separating us from other cities and creating Oakland as a unique destination. Our Black cultural districts, we have an LGBTQ plus district, they've been very active in the arts. So in order to get more revenue for arts, you have to make a revenue plus plan. You've got to understand how to monetize the arts as a city. And to me, having a bit fitting that under business and tourism is a way that the mayor can go inside the city and sell it for more funding. And also, we can go to philanthropy, we can go to high net worth individuals with a plan that shows how we're going to invest in arts in Oakland, not just scattering it all over the place and being an arts city, but having a cohesive revenue plus plan for how we can actually build up our art community in a way that like is a double bottom line thing. It's like also revitalizing some of our districts, and it's setting our city apart from other cities in a focused way. So that's kind of how I would approach investment in arts and culture.
Thank you. Ms. Lee?
Supporting the arts and cultural affairs here in Oakland should be a priority in all of our policies here. I believe it's important to make sure that we understand the force multiplier of supporting artists and cultural workers and the arts in general. I know for a fact that $5 million would help actually, that investment would help initiate a thriving, what was a thriving arts community. And in fact, when you look at Jack London Square, perfect area for fairs, cultural activities, and I believe that public agencies should contribute, and I would use my influence with public-private partners around the state. For example, right here in Oakland, I would talk to the Port of Oakland and East Bay Mud and East Bay Regional Park, the county, to invest in this $5 million, which we know would help make sure that the artists in our community not only survive but thrive. Oakland is a diverse community. The heart and soul of Oakland we see and know through our art. And we need to see this as a priority in all of our efforts and in our policies and in all of our partnerships, which I would want to bring to the table to support this beautiful city.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next question, and it's going to be for Mindy Peschenik, for Lauren Taylor, and Elizabeth Swaning. And that question is, what would you propose to improve basic city services like filling potholes, mitigating illegal dumping, and improving 311 response times? And we're going to start with Ms. Peschenik.
I'll answer that, and then I want to go back to this arts question for a moment in part of my time. This goes back to the fundamental of what we're saying. The only way you can run a city, this is 2025, obviously garbage collection should not be an issue. We know how to collect garbage. So I ask you, why does Oakland look like it looks? Why is what's been done? So it really is a question of leadership, of prioritizing what you're going to do, because it's really not a question of money. That's a mistake. It's a question of how do you prioritize what needs to be done, whether it's potholes, whether it's bringing in an industry. And I want to go to this question of the arts, because it's also not a separate question from how do you develop a city, which I remember because I'm 73, so this is not a career for me. I remember a time when you had thriving development. And I think part of the arts question goes back to education. We need to get classical education in music back in our schools. And I think that's so important because children had choruses, if they had orchestras, because I remember I'm a classical musician by profession. And I remember the experience in New York City where I grew up of be able to go play in an orchestra, start an instrument, sing in a chorus. And that creates the kind of citizenry that we need for the future generations of Oakland. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren Taylor.
Yes. So yes, I am sick and tired of having folks come in from out of town and needing to navigate what path I drive them through to get to my house because I'm embarrassed and don't want to have to make excuses for my city. So potholes, illegal dumping, other infrastructure, the basics, we absolutely have to get on top of that. What does that mean? We've got to measure, otherwise we're not going to achieve the successes that we're looking for. I will ensure that we implement department-level performance management to ensure that we not only have stated goals that we're trying to get, measurable goals, but we measure our progress towards them on a regular basis. Regular milestones to see whether or not we're on track. That's something that you as audience members, as constituents, residents, will be able to see, are we performing or are we not? And we have to be held accountable, myself, department leaders, and others. That's going to be critical. We also have to acknowledge that there are structural changes that need to be made. In our human resources department, we have to be able to hire more efficiently. It cannot take as long as it does to bring people in. That's why we have significant vacancies. And when it comes to aspects of project management, consistently having that, helping ensure that we have customer service focus for our department so that when folks come, we don't just focus on why we can't do things, but we actually ask, how can we get them done?
Thank you. And Elizabeth Sweeney.
I'd like to go back to the two questions on public safety and the arts. So right now, we're talking a lot about how do we get more police officers in Oakland, and so forth. So right now, I know it's more difficult to become a police officer than it is to become an Olympian, because I'm an Olympian, 2018 Olympian, and I applied to be a police officer 2023, 2024. I was told I was ranked number 1 after the panel interview and the agility test 2 years in a row, but dismissed for administrative reasons, probably because, I didn't submit a reference in on time and I was not told about the reference deadline, reasons like that. Anyways, so we have enough officers or potential officers applying to be police officers in Oakland. We just need to streamline the hiring process, make it not cost hundreds of dollars for candidates to apply, spend days off of their other job, etc. We also need to not make it $1,000 on week 1 if a police officer gets hired to pay for that uniform. In terms of the arts, I've been really impacted by that in Oakland. Growing up in Oakland public schools, one of the memories I have in arts class was painting tiles that now hang at the Rockridge BART station to commemorate the Oakland firestorms. I was also part of the jazz band in elementary and middle school at Claremont. That later helped me become a stand-up comedian and stunt woman occasionally in Hollywood. At my stand-up comedy show, I always incorporate public-private partnerships. Comedians pitch, and then they're roasted by investors. Thank you.
Okay, so this next question will go to Ms. Webb, Mr. Liu, and Mr. Simpson. Small businesses have suffered from crime to storefronts, car break-ins, lack of foot traffic, and perceptions that areas of the city are not safe. What is your plan to support small businesses in Oakland? Ms. Webb.
First, working extremely close and supportive of OPD. People often ask, why do I bring up that my family are OPD captains and lieutenants? It's because I have a deep respect and love for our law officers and our fire department. They literally put their lives on the line every day, and they deserve our respect and our support. And so that's first and foremost. We have to bring safety, stabilize communities so that we can even attract businesses. Stockton did a great job after it had to declare bankruptcy of really ushering around economic development of small businesses. That's what built up Oakland, our small businesses, our music and art culture. That's what built Oakland. And if you all would, just please close your eyes for a second. I want you to imagine what Oakland used to be. Could you imagine Ansel Adams and Jack London sitting at our waterfront, writing, drawing, taking pictures? Imagine the birds coming into the very first wildlife sanctuary at Lakeshore. Or imagine the music that rang out of 7th Street in our symphony and of our schools. That's what Oakland is. We have literally helped heal this nation time and time again. It's time that we heal each other, that we work together, get to know our neighbors, look at the person next to you. Just be about helping our community, where our children are safe, where our seniors are safe.
I have a plan to start up like tens of thousands of businesses. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to have seminars in which 1,000 people would come, and they would be split into zip codes, and they would then split into groups of 7 or more people, and they're going to bring their business ideas, and whoever's voted the best idea in their group is the president of a company. And then based on their resumes, they're going to vote on who's going to be a treasurer, who's going to be a secretary. So let's say the winning idea is a bed that's a tube-shaped bed, right? And let's say you live in a first-floor condominium of a 20-story building, all right? So let's say if there's an earthquake collapse on you, you'll be safe because you'll be on this bed, tube-shaped bed that's made of metal, like 1/2 inch of metal, right? So let's say that product would, you could research for, let's say, $2,000 to make the prototype, but you could potentially sell it for like $10,000 to judges, police officers, because if there's a drive-by, people are like, you'll be safe because you'll be sleeping on that bed. So after a few years, Mantini Sleep World might come around and say, hey, we like your idea. We want to buy it for $50 million. Boom. If you sell it, then you'll be millionaires. This is how capitalism works in America. And if you work 40 hours a week, you're never going to make that kind of money.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson?
I'm a union man. I work in a factory, and I am a union member, a member of BCTGM Local 125. So I'm not a small business person. But the other day in the lunchroom, I'm talking to one of my coworkers who was a businessman, a small businessman who was driven out of business in the Fruitvale district by the contempt and the bureaucracy and the lack of support from the city government and all its agencies, including the health department. The demoralizing conditions that he faces with his doors being constantly broken. The contempt for workers that's expressed by and for small businessmen and women is a reflection of which class runs Oakland. The billionaire class runs Oakland for their benefit, and the whole social regime that exists here reflects that contempt. The social crisis we confront is not a management problem and won't be resolved by management strategies or different proposals. It's a question of which class rules, and we need a complete break from the political monopoly of the billionaire families, which has controlled politics in Oakland and in the United States for decades.
Thank you. So this next question will be our last one so that we may end on time. And this question will go to Suze Robinson, Barbara Lee, and Ms. Grappo. And so the question, there are many revenue streams dedicated to housing and homeless services, including funds from the city taxes, as well as county, state, and federal money, and a small amount from the general fund. The current funding has not been effective in addressing the growing homeless population. So the question, what needs to change for these resources to have an effect? Explain what you would do that is not being done to address this critical issue and how you would fund it. And we're going to start with Suze Robinson.
Yeah, so we need to end the homeless housing lie, first of all, that we're going to build a house for every homeless person. We've been doing this 10 years. We have the largest percentage of unsheltered in the United States of America across all cities in California. So housing is infrastructure, and we have to build housing. We have a housing crisis, but we cannot leave thousands of people on the streets of this city. And I mean, when you leave people in poverty for the length of time we are, it's going to be very hard to get them out. So what we need to do is have the right goals and objectives, which is poverty. We have to get people out of poverty. And we have to hold the city and county accountable for building an infrastructure that enables people to get well and to get out of poverty. And we have to set some aggressive goals to get poverty down by 25% in X number of years. If we don't start holding the government accountable for the right things, which in my mind is poverty, then we have too many people that are flowing into subsidized housing and not enough people are flowing out of it. The system isn't sustainable when you've got more people flowing in than out and no exit strategy and no real focus on how to get people out of poverty, just building housing units. We're not holding the government accountable for the right things. And keep in mind, if we focus on poverty, it's going to tie in a lot of what we're doing on workforce and other programs, and suddenly we'll have an integrative system that's working together to get people out of poverty. And this is an issue that's escalating across the United States, and if we don't start addressing it by tackling it head on, we're just going to keep doing this for another 10 years.
Thank you. Barbara Lee.
Affordable housing for Oakland residents, including the unsheltered, has been a priority of mine by bringing in millions of dollars, as well as when I was chair of the Housing and Land Use Committee in the State Senate. A couple of things I would do immediately. First of all, my professional background, I'm a clinical social worker, and so my lens is the impact on the individual and communities at large. And so we must build more affordable housing and transitional housing and permanent housing. But how do we fund that? There are many avenues, and I would, as mayor, establish an Office of Public-Private Partnership to go after public and private resources to invest in affordable housing. We need more affordable housing. I would also make sure that Oakland gets its fair share of Measure W. That money, those are millions of dollars coming down the pipe very soon. We must have a seat at the table. Oakland must get its fair share. Also, veterans. There are about 400 veterans living on the streets in Oakland, unfortunately. We need to have better partnerships, which I have with the VA, to make sure that the VA houses our veterans. And finally, let me just say, data shows that financial assistance really helps those who are unsheltered. And just as in Portland, Oregon, I would look at pilot projects to see how we can provide jobs to help unsheltered persons clean up the blight as a pilot project. But I think and know we can do this much better here in Oakland.
All right, and lastly, Ms. Guapo.
Right now, more than half of all homeless people in Alameda County live in Oakland, reside in Oakland. This means we have to do something drastic to stop the homelessness situation in Oakland. It sounds harsh, but we need to make living in homeless encampments illegal across the board. That way we can find homes for people through social services. The people that are doing drastic things like selling drugs will be monitored and go to jail, not just given warnings or slaps on the wrist. In addition, people going to that need mental health services, get those kinds of services. Social service is needed for people to have transitional housing as well as affordable housing. Affordable housing means that each person can have access to maintain themselves, their families. What's most important that I hope you draw from this is that it's a drastic measure, and we can't stop. We can't continue doing what we're doing by just cleaning things up every once in a while, cleaning things up after a while. We must take measures. Thank you.
Thank you. So now the candidates will make their closing statements. We're going to reverse the order from the opening question, so we're going to start with Mr. Simpson.
So, as I said, I am a lifelong, I joined the socialist movement at the age of 17. My party, the Socialist Workers' Party, is a party of action. We have practical course forward to address the issues that confront the working class. We have a newspaper that's published every week, which I write for, which is called The Militant, and it's available online at themilitant.com. And our office near the Coliseum at 675 Hagenberger Road. Our party was founded in 1938, and we've been participating in elections on a national scale ever since the 40s. So we're a party that's committed to putting our program before the working class and having organizing towards having the working class make a break from the parties that have monopolized power in the United States, the Democratic and Republican parties. We think the working class needs to form its own party, a labor party that's based on the unions. Right now, my supporters are in San Jose supporting ATU local 265 in San Jose, which is on strike against the transit system there, asking for a decent wage increase to protect them from inflation. We think we need a cost of living escalator clause on all our union contracts and end the social benefits that we get. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Liu?
I own real estate in multiple cities, multiple counties, and in multiple states. And when I teach people how to buy properties, all right, it's going to be on cash, all right? That's what we got to do. So I'm going to teach people how to be rich, and they're going to buy houses on cash. No more of those affordable whatnots that they couldn't even qualify for. It's going to be direct cash, and I'll tell you, the people, how to do it the right way. Thank you.
Ms. Webb?
Thank you all again for joining us this afternoon. Again, just think about who we are. It was our breakfast program that started on 29th and West Street that fed the nation. If we could feed the nation, we could feed those in our own city. Swan's Marketplace, Preservation Park are prime examples of economic revitalization. The corporation I used to work for, East Bay Asian Local Development Corporation, it's used as a model across the nation. I couldn't believe it when I was in Detroit, New York, Seattle. They're actually studying the model that Oakland used right here to redo our Swan's Marketplace. I'm sure you all enjoy it. It was using arts and culture with the Swan's Marketplace. Above it, it's co-op living, and then it's structured around the small businesses. That's what cities across the nation are using, our models. And last, I just want to honor my son, Ocean Orion Clay. 12 years ago, he was in my belly in these chambers when I was the co-chair of the Community Policing Advisory Board. And then again, when I was on the Measure HH. My children, all of our children is what I do this work for. We owe it to our next generation to plant the seeds for sustainable, brighter futures. We could do it. We have to do it right now. They deserve it. Our seniors deserve to be protected.
Thank you. Ms. Sweeney?
We need to honor and lift up women more in Oakland. Even though women make up about a little more than half of Oakland's population, we still have to fight for equal pay, childcare, and a street and sidewalk that won't snap our stilettos in half. Something else I'd like to focus on is just the arts. So one way we can fund the arts in Oakland possibly is to focus on filmmaking incentives in Oakland. I used to be a part of a number of film productions in San Francisco with Matrix and Venom and other productions. However, a lot of big productions don't want to go to San Francisco anymore because it's way too expensive, way too exclusionary in San Francisco. We can make Oakland an inclusive place for filmmaking and make Oaklanders proud to see their city on television or film, and that will bring more businesses in, and that can help fund the arts in schools or be one of the sources of funding for that. Another thing we can do is focus on more comedy in the city, more funding of the arts. I mentioned I have a tech pitch roast comedy show where founders pitch, then they're roasted and given candid feedback in a fun way by comedians and investors. So we can have that throughout Oakland, and that would be a way to incorporate business and comedy in the city. But we need to uplift women more in Oakland and the arts as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you to the League, other sponsors of this event, this forum. It's absolutely critical for our inclusive democracy. I'm Lauren Taylor. I'm an engineer, a former council member, father raising fourth-generation Oaklanders here. As a professional problem solver, I have solved difficult and tough, complex issues outside of City Hall and after coming into City Hall. I am ready to jump in and tackle our toughest challenges with the urgency that it requires, the urgency that 86,000 Oaklanders called for when they recalled our former mayor, rebuking the failed policies and practices of the past. We have to move forward quickly, otherwise we will lose our residents, we will lose businesses, we will lose revenues. Yes, Oakland is an amazing city, but we have challenges that must be addressed quickly to avoid the potential for bankruptcy, to avoid us losing control of our own future. I am excited to step up and really serve our city in a way that I know Oaklanders deserve to be served. With my administration, we will reduce violent crime. We will activate local businesses, clean up the vacant, blighted parcels in our city, making sure that we look the way that we value and that others are required to treat us the same way. Oakland will no longer be the dumping ground for other cities. It will no longer be a challenge for us. It will be our bright spot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Petchenuk.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the League for this chance to have our discussion, which is important, which goes to something I'm going to bring in as mayor, which is we need to have more dialogue with the population, with Oaklanders. And we need town meetings where they can come and actually say to the mayor, to the city council, what's on their mind and how do we solve it. And this gets to a fundamental point, because I don't think all these problems are separate problems. It comes down to if you want to say a philosophical way of looking at it, what makes us in the image of God, the Creator, which is a wonderful mind to do the good. And that's why the question of, it's not money, but it's about creating the industries, the skilled jobs, the manufacturing, the arts, where you can see the next generation actually flourish in this way. And it means for Oakland a chance to actually become, I think, a great model for the rest of the country. Because if we can fix Oakland, not one little problem, not the same old way we've been dealing with these problems, if we take a different vision of where do we want to take Oakland, where do you, everyone in this audience, everyone listening, want to take Oakland to? And if we take that approach, which is the American system way, and that's why I would work with President Donald Trump, because that's what it needs. He needs you to go in there and get the job done, and that's why I will want to bring in the Doge, because we need some big cleanup fast.
Thank you. Ms. Grappo?
My name is President Christina Grappo, and I mean business and government. We need to revitalize our Oakland economy. We must have internships and development for Oaklanders to face our Oakland economy, to build more growing, flourishing business and wealth affluency so all neighborhoods have a chance. We must protect our public safety in our budget. We must have a strong police force. We must have a strong fire department. We must continue to make plans for a July police academy to protect our police force from overtime without being paid enough in their brackets. In addition, as artists, we still have a coliseum to deal with, to contend with. This means we can have concert venues, or we can build more affordable housing, or do a combination next to the Oracle Arena. Furthermore, I'd like to just end by saying, may the Oakland force be with you.
Thank you. Ms. Lee?
Yes, let me thank you once again, the League of Women Voters, our sponsors, and all of the candidates for this important forum. As your mayor, I will work to take on the challenges of public safety, housing, good governance, our budget immediately. I have gathered, mind you, leaders, locked the doors, and led negotiations that have gotten things done and solved many, many problems. As your mayor, I will put the city on track to keep our vision for a clean, a safe, and a thriving city for all, and put forward also the great opportunities this city holds. I'll use my influence and my contacts to persuade investors to invest in Oakland. Yes, this public safety crisis must be put under control, and as your mayor, I will get this under control. I'm the only candidate who is endorsed by the broadest coalition of civic leaders and residents in recent memory, labor and business, tenants and landlords, 7 former mayors and administrators. Many of you know that I'm a fighter and I will stand my ground even if I'm the only one. I don't believe that Oakland is broken or a drain on the state or the federal government or the county. Oakland deserves its fair share of our tax dollars, and I will fight each and every single day for Oakland, for racial and economic equity, and for constituent services that you deserve from your mayor. We must restore trust in our government and tell the truth about our current crisis, and we must do this together. Thank you.
Ms. Robinson?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been working at the intersection of business and public policy since 2009. I'm Vice President of Governance for a regional business group, and I'm a very qualified candidate. And look, I've been working behind the scenes in politics to the point where I don't really like politics very much. And I think politics is a big problem that we have in Oakland. So I think the city needs somebody who understands politics and knows how to maneuver it and get it out of some of the issues that are impacting all of our lives. And it's like, you know, the problem is a lot of times the solution. So this stuff didn't happen overnight. We've got to follow the problem to the roots, and we have to look at it as not just, you know, solving the problem, but an incredible opportunity to make a huge move for the city of Oakland and redefine what we even are. And it's like, at no other time are we going to get these politicians working together, okay? They don't work together in good times. They stab each other in the back. There's game playing. But right now, in a crisis, everyone is working together. So it's not just that we have a crisis and that we have to get revenue. It's that we have to re-identify the city and build the Oakland that we want for the future. We have a huge opportunity to build the city that we all want in the future. And I think we need to do more than just get us out of survival mode. We need to think big about who we are, where we're going, and what we want to become as a city. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you very much. And on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Oakland and our community partners, I want to thank the candidates for their participation today. And we also want to thank the audience for coming to meet the candidates and posing thoughtful questions. This forum will be rebroadcast on KTOP and posted on the League of Women Voters of Oakland's website, LWVOakland.org, and YouTube channel. For further information about the candidates and ballot measure, please visit the League's website. Members of the League of Women Voters do the hands-on work to defend democracy and empower voters. While we never endorse a candidate, we are directly involved in shaping important issues to keep our community strong. If you would like to be involved with the men and women helping make democracy work for everyone, it's easy to join the League. We encourage you to visit our website to do that or the table in the lobby.
Thank you. And remember, Election Day is April 15th. In Alameda County, every voter is mailed a ballot. You can vote early at one of the vote centers around Oakland, or vote by mail by filling out your ballot and making sure you've signed the outside of the envelope. Return it via U.S. mail, no postage required, or you can drop it off at any of the many Dropbox locations around Oakland. Please encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote. In Oakland, if you missed the March 31st deadline, you may register conditionally and vote provisionally in person at the Registrar of Voters office or at any of the many vote centers throughout the county. Find out more at ac.vote.alamedacountyca.gov. This concludes our forum. Thank you for coming.